Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Christopher Kraus, your Learning and Development Specialist at Embraer, and welcome to our remote learning webinar series. Today's topic is Legal 101. I'm going to introduce our speaker in just a minute, but first, a little bit of housekeeping. So you've all logged in with your mics on mute and your video disabled, so thank you all very much for that. I wanted to remind you that this session is being recorded, and you will be able to find it on Empower later on today and going forward. So if you have anybody that was not able to attend today's session and they're interested, they can always go to Empower and find it. There will be some Q&A time at the end of this session, so if you could hold off on questions, and then at the end we'll do questions through chat and see how that works before we open up to open mic, which is what we sometimes do, but since we have so many people on the call today, we might just do it through chat. And as always, there is a post-session survey. All the topics that you suggest on the survey are thought of for future sessions, so please take a minute to complete that. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our senior legal counsel, Christian Zinn. Christian, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you will enjoy what I try not to make a very dry topic, which is labor and employment law. Here's a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. This is a very broad, meant to be a very broad primer and give you on U.S. anti-discrimination law. Also, to give you an update on a very recent Supreme Court case that came out a few weeks ago, which has changed anti-discrimination law by expanding the definition of one of the categories. And then also, if you have any general questions, I'll try and answer them during this meeting. One quick update or sort of caveat on the questions. I am a lawyer for the company, so I am not your lawyer. So if you have any specific questions, those I might not be able to answer. But if we have hypotheticals at the end or general questions, those I'll certainly be able to answer and try and answer. Anything that we can't discuss, I'll be happy to take offline with you, and we can connect then. With that, let's get started. Here's the quick overview of U.S. anti-discrimination law. We have three main federal laws. They are Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We have the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, and we have the Americans with Disabilities Act. And what these three laws protect are the seven main categories that are protected from discrimination. And those categories are sex, race, color, religion, national origin, all five of those under Title VII. Then we have age in the Age Discrimination and Employment Act, which protects anyone from discrimination based on age once they have reached the ripe old age of 40. And then we have the Americans with Disabilities Act, which prohibits discrimination and retaliation based on somebody's actual or perceived disability. In addition to these federal laws cover the entire United States. In addition to that, some states, in fact most, have their own state equivalent anti-discrimination laws. Here in Florida, it's the Florida Civil Rights Act, and it protects all the same categories and adds a couple of categories as well. Now, the hot off the press item, if you see on your screen under sex, in the parenthetical after sex, it says that sex includes pregnancy and gender nonconformity. Now, pregnancy, we have known for a long time, and it's settled law that pregnancy discrimination because someone is pregnant is protected. However, it has been a hotly debated topic whether somebody's sexual identity is protected from discrimination under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court decided in a 63 case, the Bostick versus Clayton County case, and held it is now the law of the land until Congress acts, if they so choose, that Title VII employment discrimination protections because of sex apply to gay, lesbian, and transgender workers. Justice Gorsuch is the one who wrote the opinion for the court, and if you may remember, this was one of the surprising moments, I guess, of this court decision is that both Justice Gorsuch and Chief Justice Roberts joined in the opinion, and that Justice Gorsuch wrote it. And I say it's surprising because for those of you who are like me, and there may be none of you on this call that are like that watch who is on the Supreme Court and which president appoints what. Justice Roberts was appointed by President Bush, a Republican, and Justice Gorsuch was just recently appointed by President Trump, a Republican. And thus, the two of them joining on this, what appears to be a very divisive topic down party lines, and especially to write the opinion, was a surprise for many. But the one of the quotes, and there are many, the opinion is about 161 pages. So if you want to read it, I have a link to it. I'm happy to send it to you. But one of the main quotes that I saw that I thought was important that sort of encapsulates the holding of this case is what Justice Gorsuch wrote, which is, an employer who fires an individual for being homosexual or transgender fires that person for traits or actions it would not have questioned in a member of a different sex. Therefore, sex plays a necessary and undistinguishable role in the decision, which is what Title VII forbids. Importantly, they did not add to the law. They did not add that Title VII also protects race, color, religion, national origin, sex, and sexual orientation. What they did is they interpreted sex to mean that sex was a necessary part of the inquiry when somebody fires an individual because of their sexuality. Now, this case is going to be hotly debated. It only applies to purportedly to terminations. It is likely going to apply, and we will be applying it at Embraer also to all employment decisions, because that's where the law is going to go, and that's where the EEOC will be pushing it. But in a good way for us, this new law doesn't, or this new case doesn't really change how we manage our employees, because we manage our employees' performance, and we treat and will continue to treat all of our employees with dignity. And so it's more of what we do here already. In addition to being protected for or against discrimination, employees are also protected from harassment in the workplace. And harassment is defined as unwelcome physical or verbal conduct that's based on a protected category. That's the important part, that it's based on a protected category. So race, sex, national origin, religion, color, age, or disability. And that conduct it results in a tangible employment action. Lots of legal buzzwords here, so I'm sorry. But a tangible employment action, think termination, write-up, failure to get promoted. So it's verbal or physical conduct based on a protected category when somebody's fired, not promoted, or written up, or that conduct based on the protected category is so severe or pervasive to create a hostile work environment. Now, severe or pervasive, the way I usually explain these is that, kind of tongue-in-cheek in a joking manner, that everyone at work gets to ask out everyone one time. And that is neither severe nor is it pervasive. It's not a lot, right? But if I go and ask somebody out once and they say no, and then I ask them again the next day and they say no, and again the next day and they say no, and I continue to do this, at some point, that conduct is not severe, asking a question, but it becomes pervasive, meaning it happens a lot, and to create a hostile work environment. Importantly, hostile work environments are not, or excuse me, harassment are not just based on sex. You can be harassed enough to create a hostile work environment because of your age, your race, your national origin, your color, and your disability. So that's important to know. However, the most common form of harassment is sexual harassment. And here in the current laws, we have two basic types of sexual harassments. The first type is what's known as quid pro quo sexual harassment. For those of you who didn't take Latin like me, I had to look it up, but it means quid pro quo means this for that. So that is the easiest example is go out with me or you won't get promoted. That's it, and I'm the manager and I actually have the authority to do that. So if that is unpermitted conduct and it is sexual harassment. The other type of sexual harassment is what is known as a hostile work environment harassment. And that's such conduct that has the purpose or effect of unreasonably interfering with an employee's work performance or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment that is severe or pervasive enough to do that. And the last slide that I have to show you guys is one that says, hey, you know, I was just kidding, there's two slides. That harassment is not limited to the workplace. What does that mean? Many of us are friendly with our coworkers outside of work, and that is perfectly okay. But harassment can happen not just while we're on the line or in the office, but it can happen in any setting where there is more than one employee gathered. This includes annual meetings, business trips, holiday parties, when we go to sporting events, business lunches, even happy hours that are not work related. But everyone goes from the office. It's not sponsored by work, but you have to be careful because their harassment may also occur. And now, truly the last one. If you feel that you've been discriminated against or you are being harassed in one of the fashions that we discussed, one of the protections that all the laws provide you is that you are protected from retaliation for complaining or bringing up a good faith belief in that discrimination or harassment. The company may not retaliate against anyone who in good faith reports a suspected violation of our policies, assists in making such a complaint, or even cooperates in an investigation. Now, the retaliatory conduct, important, is not limited to just adverse employment actions like termination or demotions. We've all been in elementary school or middle school or even high school where we know what retaliation is. When you snub somebody, when all of a sudden your entire group stops talking to somebody because in retaliation for what they did, that sort of thing in certain circumstances can also include retaliation. But importantly, and this is the last point, just because somebody complained or brought up an issue of discrimination or harassment does not mean that now they have a get out of jail free card. What do I mean by that? It means that if you complain of harassment or discrimination, the company will do an investigation, an appropriate investigation will look into this matter because the company finds these things to be very serious and takes them very seriously. However, the company during this time also expects you, the person that made the complaint, to continue doing your job in the same manner as you were before, or in the appropriate manner. So that doesn't mean that just because you complained, all of a sudden you can't be fired or you can't be written up. You can certainly not be written up or fired in retaliation for making the complaints, but you can be fired or written up if your work performance it goes below par, or if you stop showing up to work on time, or so just that is a fine line. A lot of people have the misconception that just because they complain, they are now safe or protected from being fired. They are not safe from being fired for not doing their job. They're only safe from being fired if the reason they're being fired is that complaint. So little nuances there in employment law. That is all I have. If you have questions, please either write them down or go ahead and talk if you want. I don't know. Chris, he can manage that. And also importantly, there's a survey code there at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Feel free to put your iPhone on there, take a picture or the camera, and it'll direct you to a survey where I expect to get all fives. Thank you for your time. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Christian, you're too funny. Yeah, guys, you know what? Let's try if you have a question, open up your mic and ask it. Or if you prefer, I will be checking the chat. So if you've got a question that you don't really want to say out loud, type it and I will I'll ask the question for you. So go right ahead. And Christian, I know that it takes 30 seconds or so for people to warm up at least. So let's see for a couple of seconds here if we've got people interested in asking a question.
Hello, I have a question. This is Sheena.
Hey, Sheena.
So I have a question. Hold on, let me switch rooms. Sorry, it's a little bit loud where I currently am. So my question is kind of, it's in regard to the current situation that's going on with the furlough process. And my question is, I understand I've been listening to the news and following, different things that they say. I don't know if this is something, that applies to Embraer or is, up your alley or not. But one of the things they were saying is they were giving money to companies. And, I thought about us, especially because we do work in the aviation, the commercial sector, which is, being hit really hard. And then I was wondering, how is that playing a role into, any employees that have been furloughed? Are we using that to bring them back, or I don't know if you can talk about that or not.
Great question. Happy that it has nothing to do with the presentation. But
I'm sorry.
I can generally tell you that the CARES Act, which is the law that you're referring to, is one that I know that senior leadership has evaluated and is acting with that always in mind.
Great, thank you.
Sure. I'm also happy to take questions that have nothing to do with the presentation, apparently. At this point in the presentation, I say Bueller.
Yeah, right. And I don't see any other questions coming through on chat.
Excellent. Chris, let me just end this on my part by saying thank you very much to everyone. If you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable saying out loud here, feel free to email me. As I said in the beginning, I am the company's lawyer. I can't be your lawyer, but I can certainly direct you if you have. I can answer general questions, and if you have specific questions that don't involve Embraer, I can certainly direct you to the right people.
Awesome. Christian, thank you so much for your time today. This has been really good information. Guys, again, If you haven't completed the survey, use that QR code, answer the questions, and as Christian said, make sure you give them all 5s. And the last question though is, what topics would you like to see in the future? And that's a big one, because we, as I say in every session, we look at those, and every topic we've had since May has directly related back to the surveys, the answers that we get from the surveys. So please complete it. If you, for some reason, can't make that code work, I'm going to send out an email after the class with the more traditional link, so you can use that too. But again, guys, thank you all so much for your time today. Christian, thank you for your time, and we'll see you all soon.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christian. And Chris.